All right. Thank you. Thank you. I am a member here. Wow, that was great, wasn't it? Good grief. Hey, Mikey. Mikey, look. Wait, come here. Dude, you are just, you're unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love going to church here because it's like, you get blessed assurance and you get how great they are, and it's done with kind of a Trans-Siberian Orchestra flair, So it's unbelievable. If you are new to us, Rick, the real pastor, is not here. Please pray for Rick. He is on a very serious mission trip, smuggling Bibles into Hawaii. Sweet. So he told me, I'm going out of the country. I said, okay. Where'd you go to school, Rick? It's been our country for a while, Man, I am excited to be here. I have research now. I have research today. This is very unusual for me. It's not very unusual that I would do research. It's very unusual that I would kind of put it together, because I do research a lot, and this time though I had something that kind of prompted it, and I can even tell you. I'll give you the names. These are my footnotes, my research. The people I researched the past couple: Gloria Gaither, Bernard Cornwell, Max Lucado, Jimmy Urey, Mark Lowry, Michael Perry, Gilbert Little, Sandy Stinson, Polly Andrews, Johanna Bullard, Kevin Perkins, Dan Stone, Steve Jacobson, Austin and Adam Andrews, Dylan Weir, Rick Long, Windsor Broadhurst, Tim Broadhurst, Charlie Gordon, Paul Tebby, Matt Baher, Matt Limpert, Brian Gibbons, Sandy Dorff, and Greg Steinhaus. So all those people, knowingly or unknowingly, have helped me with this research. Because, and I'll tell you what I was researching. I got kind of stopped, just stunned. I saw this picture of Jesus the other day, and he was laughing. And I had not seen that before. And it just stopped me. And I remember when I saw it, and stopping and looking at it, and thinking, well, that's very cool. But then I also thought, why have I never thought of this before? Because part of it may be because I can imagine Jesus in many other ways, because we've seen all I started to say the photographs. We haven't seen photographs, but we have seen the pictures, the drawings that people make. And so, I can imagine a bunch of different kinds of Jesuses, but they're all pretty much like that, because you see, you see the sad Jesus, kind of like that, and then the worshipful one, like that, and the angry one. It's probably, you saw it at the temple, the angry one, and the surprised one, and the kind of neutral one. There's the hurting one, on the cross, and there's a bunch of different Jesus. When I was growing up, I was 6 or 7 years old, and somebody gave my parents. And that my parents must have really liked these people, because it was like a piece of art, okay, but it wasn't really that good. But my parents must have loved them because they put it up in the living room. Now, I don't know how you grew up, but when I grew up, my sister and I knew we had a living room, but we just weren't ever allowed in it, okay? And so I think, our living room was the least used room in our entire house. It was just 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, little brick house, and we never went in the living room. And so they put this picture that somebody painted, and it was Jesus getting tagged by Judas, is what it was. It's it's like Jesus sitting there staring into the kind of the camera. You know what I'm saying? Staring into right there, and then Judas right here, and Judas is kind of going, and Jesus it was horrible. And of course, if you don't go, if you only have 3 bedrooms, when we would have visitors, they would sleep in my bedroom. I had to sleep in the living room. with Judas and Jesus. And I hated that picture. That picture scared me to death. And I would make my mother take it off the wall. It was a big old heavy thing. I had to take it off the wall. Please take creepy Jesus off the wall. I cannot. And so, but I've always, I guess that's kind of colored what I've thought. You know, when I think of Jesus, because this, you know, because I couldn't see a laughing God. You know, I could see a comforting God. I could see a nice God. I could see like a granddaddy God. Yeah, I could see a David Copperfield God, you know, like that, and you know, something appears or disappears. But it's just a laughing God was a little too much for me. And so two things that made me think. One is I haven't thought about it very much, and the other is when I have thought about it, I hadn't thought about it correctly. Because why would so many of people like Jesus? Why would we still be around if he was like a curmudgeon? And so my research, the thing I started to do is I started to figure out, I want to find out, like, what do I really think? You know, because I believe that there is a way to think through things and get to a conclusion that you can live with. David, hey, how are you doing? Hadn't seen David in a while. So it's the ADD kicking in. Sorry. So the thing I remember, there's this old guy I used to hang around with. His name is Jones, and I asked Jones one time. I said, "So what is wisdom?" Because he was always talking about seeking wisdom, and he said, "Wisdom is a deeper understanding of principle." The deeper understanding of principle. You know, principles work every time, but this is a deeper understanding of principle. And I said, okay, so then when you get that deeper understanding of principle, and then what? He said, well, it's not a deep understanding of principle. That's not your target. Your target is a deeper understanding of principle. I said, okay. So then where do you go? He said, deeper. Okay. You know, so it's like there is a point that you can find the foundation. But most people don't stop. I mean, most people stop before they get to a foundation. We live a very surface thought process. And that's kind of what I think that I have probably done with Jesus. A guy named Michael Catt, who's a pastor over in Georgia, told me one time, he said, you know, the problem with a lot of us is that our knowledge of Jesus and what we think and what we know of Jesus is pretty much what we learned in Sunday school in the second grade. And we kind of didn't go beyond that. And I thought, well, that's probably me. And so one of the things that I've gotten a kick out of doing in the past is figuring out, thinking to something, okay? And I had something that happened to me, another thing happened to me in the childhood that really kind of helped me explain my thinking to myself. And so that because if you can get it, if you can understand it, you can do it. I mean, even if you do something inadvertently sometimes, if you can understand how that happened, well, now you do it on purpose, all right? So here we were, I was 11 years old this time, in the same town, though, Dothan, Alabama. And some of you look like you're like my age, and so you probably, the pool was your babysitter during the summer too, right? You know, Mom and Dad, they'd drop us off by the pool, and this was before anything bad happened to anybody, and so it just, you know, just stay there, and nobody drowned, nobody got kidnapped. It was crazy. It was a different time, you know, but... So we would be at Azalea Pool every day, all day, and at one point, it got to where we were so sick. It was like end of June. We're so sick of playing the games that we all played, which is like, you know, you're so tired of playing Marco Polo by that time, and Blind Gator, and Atomic Water Ball, and Blue Rover, which is just like Red Rover, but it's done in the water. And you're so sick of it by then, you know, we're coming up with our own games. So one of the games that we came up with, we called Dolphin. And the reason we called it Dolphin was because Flipper was a big deal right then. And you're looking at me like, I don't know who Flipper is. I know. You guys are very young. But it's like we had a time during my childhood, there was one animal show after the other, and they were all the same. And so Flipper was just like, the dolphin's like Lassie in a wetsuit. Okay, so same. He was like, go Lassie, go gentle Ben, go Flicka, go Flip. It was all the same show, just different person in one of those suits. And so but Flipper, you remember how Flipper would like come out of the water and on his tail and do that? That would be the game. That was the point of our game. Was we would get in the middle and we would we would tread water in a circle, and one at a time you had to go into the middle and see how far out you could come out of the water, and that was dolphin. We were very bored. We were very bored. But a kid named Aaron Perry won all the time. Like, all the time. He was bigger than we were. He was a year older. His long legs and big feet and big hands. He could, like, grab the water, I mean, just get way up. And we were just discouraged because he was so good at it. And we would study the big man. It's like, how is he doing his fingers? Is his thumb going beside him, or here? Is he folding it in? Or his feet? Is he doing his feet like one time, or are they doing it like this? And so we studied, and we got better, but Aaron got better too. And so nobody ever beat him until the day my best friend just like destroyed him. So we were, and people had gotten so discouraged, people didn't even want to play. And so Aaron had already taken his turn this day, and a couple of kids are just leaving. We're like, hey, come on, we're not through. And so Kevin Perkins gets in the middle. He takes his place in the middle, and he says, are you ready? And we're like, yeah, go. And he said, you sure you're ready? We're like, go, please, just go. And he goes down. And we're, treading water and trying to see what he's doing. And he goes all the way down. And when he gets down, he like squats way down. And before we can say anything, he pushes off the bottom and rockets out the top. And we're like, rah! He was like way higher than Aaron had ever gone. It was like, we have a new Dolphin King! And it was incredible. It was an incredible moment. And of course, Aaron and his little toadies were like, well, you cheated. And Kevin's like, really? Where's the rule that says you can't go down before you go up? And we were like, okay, well, that's not a rule. And we're like, yeah, where's that rule? Splashing him, And so, but soon, everybody was able to play that way. And he was winning again. And he always won. But Kevin is still, the Dolphin legend. And it's a couple of things occurred to me through the years. I always go back to thinking about that. It's one of the funniest things, one of the great moments of childhood. And one of the things that I thought was that if you had come to us and said, hey, come on, you guys, aren't y'all doing the best you can do? We would say, yes, we are. We really were. But there was a challenge in that if you don't know something exists, if you don't take the time to think a certain way and think through to the truth, not just what's true, but all the way to the truth, then, because we were doing the best we could do, we just didn't understand that we weren't anywhere close to the best that could be done. Right? I mean, we were doing the best we could do. We were watching, and we were studying. I mean, because Aaron was the gold standard. I mean, he was the gold standard. He owned the best practices manual. We're watching. We knew exactly. And, I mean, it was obvious how you do this. At least it was obvious until one kid went down instead of up. And then what had been so obvious wasn't even any longer the truth. And when you think about it, until you get to the foundation of something, until you get to that bottom of the pool and plant your feet against something solid, you could never gather all the power that's available. You could never gather all the energy that's available. And so I've learned to look at little bitty things and go, to try to figure out this situation or this business or this relationship or this God. And so let's do this. I've written a couple of notes to find out, who was he? How did Jesus turn out like he turned out? This time of year, we're coming up on Easter, and Time Magazine, Newsweek, and some documentaries will be doing a thing about the historical Jesus, and was he really a God, and was the virgin birth, did it really happen? Or we're going to see this again this year, and because they don't ever question, did Jesus exist? Did he say this stuff? But they question his divinity. They question all the other stuff. And so, okay, and it's okay, but don't just stop with questioning. I mean, if you're going to question, let's question. Okay, so, and let's find out, what was he like? Now, in Luke, there's a book in the Bible called Luke, and Luke was a physician, but he was a biographer, a writer. And he did what is, there's all different kind of stories in the Bible that people wrote about the same thing. I'm standing here, you're standing there, and it's something here. We'd have kind of a little bit different take on it, even though it'd be pretty much the same thing. Well, Luke has the definitive thing on Sarah, and one of the things he says, you remember this? Remember when Mary and Joseph were going to be counted in the census, and then they are halfway back and they realize 12-year-old Jesus is not with us, and they go back and Jesus is in the temple and the teachers are talking to him and asking him questions and he's asking them questions, and they're just talking and having a good time, and they're like, holy, it's like amazing. Well, here's what, right after that story, here is what Luke said. This is Luke 2:52. Said, and Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Now, I've heard that forever. Never really thought about it a lot. Okay? But if you think about it, Jesus grew in wisdom. Okay, well, you would expect him to. He's 12 years old. He's God. Okay? Then he's growing in stature. He's come to earth as a man. All right? He's a boy. He's 12 years old. So now he's getting bigger. He's growing in stature. And in favor with God. Well, of course, this is God's son, God's only son, so you would expect that. But this part, I've never even really thought about. He grew in favor with God and man. He grew in favor with man. You know what that tells us about Jesus, right? He had manners. Seriously, think about it. He had manners. He was polite. He knew how to talk to adults. He knew how to shake hands and look you in the eye or whatever they did then. He knew how to respectfully ask a question. He knew how to answer questions from them without sounding like a know-it-all. He was a 12-year-old that had gained favor with man. He was gaining favor with man. I mean, think about this, guys. How many 12-year-olds have you been around? Like, I cannot wait to get away from this kid, right? I mean, and so that is the way he was. And then remember the wedding feast? The wedding feast at Cana. This is the story of the water and the wine. That was the first miracle that Jesus did. But this is very curious to me, because if you say, okay, that's the first one he did. Why did Jesus go to the wedding in the first place? Why was he even there? Okay, and we get a clue. We get a clue here on John 2:2. And listen to this nothing verse. It just says, Jesus and his friends were also invited to the wedding. I mean, think about it. Why? It wasn't to do miracles. Nobody knew he could do any. It wasn't because he was God. Nobody knew. It wasn't because he was a celebrity. He wasn't one yet. And they didn't ask him there so he would preach, because he hadn't started preaching. But at some point, somebody's making up the wedding list and say, hey, put Jesus on it. He's great. Right? I mean, people liked him. People liked him. They liked being around him. I mean, it's, when you think about that, and then you think about what happened there. Because, we mentioned the virgin birth thing a couple minutes ago. Virgin birth thing. There's that big thing. People always, is that just mythology? Is that just a metaphor for, you'll see these documentaries. Let me tell you something. Here's how we can decide whether or not it was a virgin birth. Just look at Mary's life. Look at Mary's life. Not necessarily Jesus' life to determine that. You look at Mary's life. Because if anybody knew whether or not she was a virgin, Mary knew. Right? I mean, if anybody knew. I mean, can you see the angel coming and saying, you're not going to be with a man, but you will be with child, and it will be God's son. And can you see Mary going, my mother's sleeping down the hall. Would you tell her this? Because she ain't going to buy any of it. But if anybody knew, she knew. Okay, so think about the wedding feast. Jesus is there. They run out of wine. He's never done a miracle publicly, right? And so Mary goes up, says, Mom, and she goes, they're out of wine. And Jesus says, shh, no, it's not my time. It's not my time. That's what he said. And she goes, they're out of wine. And, right? I mean, she puts the mojo on him. She's his mom. Okay, so she knew something. See, I'm thinking Jesus has been doing stuff around the house that nobody knew about, because she knew, right? When Austin and Al, probably when our boys were little, they go, hey, come, will you watch us ride a bike? Oh, yeah, sure, okay. Come watch us now. Watch us ride the bike. Or, hey, okay, hey, come watch us ride. Guys, we've watched you ride. Yeah, but watch me do it this way, can't you see Jesus going, Mom, watch me levitate this table. Watch. I've seen it. Yeah, but watch it this way. It's like, so there's something going on there, right? That she knew. But see, Jesus' purpose, if everybody liked him so much, and everybody evidently did, Jesus' purpose was not to show off. It was to show up. Right? I mean, because if you look at what he was and what he wasn't a name dropper. He wasn't a show off. He wasn't a name dropper. You don't ever see anywhere in the Bible where he goes, did I tell you about the time Moses and I were together on the mountain? No, never did that. Because he could have been a show off. Hey, watch me fly. Watch this, And he wasn't a smart aleck. That would have been real easy. I know what you're thinking. You want me to prove it? He could have been a smart aleck. For somebody who was better than everyone, he never acted better than everyone. Right? He never acted better. Because he could have. If I told you my dad and I own property on Jupiter, right? He could have pulled so much stuff. And none of the local people, there's not anything recorded that anybody ever said, Jesus, who went and make you God? Right? Nobody said anything about the way. They liked him. He didn't need money, but he still worked in the carpenter shop. He didn't need to study, but he still went to the synagogue. And people liked him. He remembered their names. He listened to their stories. He answered their questions. He visited their sick relatives and helped their sick friends. He fished with fishermen and ate lunch with people nobody else would eat lunch with. I mean, when you think about it, you know at least he went to enough parties to be criticized for hanging around with the wrong people. This was a fun guy. Why are we not thinking of Jesus as a happy, happy Jesus? I mean, because he was happy. He is happy, and he wants you to be happy too. Where did we get the idea that to be a good Christian, you got to be sad and solemn and judgmental? And I mean, if we want other people to come around to our way of thinking, Jesus is a great example, because if we want people to come around to our way of thinking, it helps if they like us a little bit, right? It helps if we smile while we talk. I'll bet you anything Jesus smiled while he talked. I'm not talking about smiling a lot. I'm talking about smiling while you're talking. You know, that's kind of a different thing. I mean, most people don't do that. And we should learn to do that, because when you smile while you talk, people can't help it. I mean, they just can't. They can't help it. And then if you learn to smile while you're talking, you get good at it, and start throwing that one in there. A little nod. Look at her. She's nodding. She don't know why she's nodding. But when you're smiling and nodding, you can't say no to nothing. I mean, what a great tool. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but it's been a while since I've been accused of having too much fun. And I want to be seen as a fun person. I also want people to know why I believe in Jesus. Why? You know, I believe in Jesus because I'm not a Christ follower, and this line is straight from Bill Gaither, who said this to me one time, and I thought, that's me too. He said, I don't follow Christ because I'm scared of hell. I follow him because I love him. I love Jesus. And if you know Jesus, and I would urge you to go to the bottom of the pool on Jesus. Look at some stuff and figure out. And Mary again is proof that Jesus is who he said he was. And there is a verse, and this is another one that's just like overlooked, okay? But I want you to think about this, because see, all our craziness, all the things that we've done that we wish we hadn't done, all the things that hold us back, those things were taken by Jesus on the cross. He took our sins, he took our mistakes, our screw-ups, and he took them. And there's nothing that you can do that can make Jesus love you less. And I've said this before and had people say, well, you don't know what I did. But a friend of mine says, well, okay, you're right, I don't know what you did, but have you ever had an affair with a woman and then had her husband killed and then had the baby? And no, right? Well, that's what King David did. And he repented, and God said he was a man after God's own heart. There's nothing we can do to make God love us less. And when we realize who he is, this is the verse that just blows my mind. John 19:25, this is the last thing. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother, Mary. You got that? Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother, Mary. You know what that means, right? I mean, she was there at the crucifixion. She was there. She watched it happen. Now, think about that. Think about your mom. What would happen? What would my mom have done? My mom would have gone nuts. You know, my mom was like, look, okay, if I had told people that I was God and now they were going to kill me for it, my mother would have gone nuts. Hey, he's crazy, but don't kill him. You know, he's out of his mind. Yes, he's nuts, but don't kill him. But Mary's silence at the cross tells you all you need to know about the virgin birth and who Jesus really, really was and who he remains to us today. You bow your heads. Lord, thank you for this time together. Thank you for the owners of this place and their generosity to allow us to use this every Sunday morning. Lord, be with Rick as he travels home this week. Be with these people, Lord. Put your hand on our shoulders. Lord, the Bible says that nature cries out your name, that if we didn't, the very rocks would cry out. And so, Lord, as we hear the rain, as we feel the wind, and the temperature changes, as we hear the sound of the Gulf, help us to remember that you are speaking to us in many, many different ways, and that you love us. Amen.